Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our Booster Club members for your many donations and much more, your prayers. We visited faraway countries and strange lands. We've even spoken to dignitaries and were detained for spreading the glorious gospel in Cuba. The truth is that the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered throughout the world. Help us on our journey as we continue to raise up the nation of Israel. 12 tribes worldwide. Join or donate today. Shalom.
Most High Christ bless. My name is Captain Joel, and this is
Soldier Man.
Today's topic is Secret Plots of America, the hidden agenda to destroy Black people. And like I said, if you've seen our previous classes, this is just a collection of everything, all the previous classes that I put together. What you're going to notice, America has a hidden agenda. Now it's made manifest through the Spirit of Christ to destroy Black people. And this agenda is not just, it was constructed through yesterday, or the blueprint was laid out decades ago. This was laid out way in advance. It's a plot to destroy our people. It's a conspiracy, and it's been going on for years, and we're now reaping the repercussions of it in our generations. People look at our Black people and they say, how is it that they have these certain characteristics? Why is it that they act this way? Why are the women out in the street fighting each other? Why are the Black men killing each other in astronomical numbers? Why is there mass incarceration? What's wrong with the children? Why are the children running rampant throughout the streets? Why are the little girls becoming pregnant at an early age? All this has to do with the system that America set up. America systematically has set up different experiments, social experiments, to produce the conditions that Black people are in today. All right, but the first thing we're gonna start off with, we're gonna go back in time. We're gonna start in the 20s. After Black people were emancipated in slavery, we obtained wealth. We acquired some type of wealth. You have Black businessmen, you have entrepreneurs, you have farmers, you have all types of areas that Black people were involved in which we obtained different cities. We owned land, we owned businesses, we owned property, we owned all types of things. We owned wealth. Let's start with Jeremiah 29, verse 5.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 5. Build ye houses and dwell in them.
So, you always hear this saying, pull yourself up by your shoestring, or what is it, boots? Your bootstraps? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They always say that. To pull yourself up. You could do it. Our ancestors did it. We were immigrants. We came to America, and look at the lifestyle that we live. Look at everything that we acquired through hard work. If you work hard, you can get the same success that we have. You can achieve the same goals that we have achieved. They always say that. So when we do these things, when we take it upon ourselves to better ourselves, to better our household, to better our family, to better our nation and community, there's always a secret plot or envy to overthrow us. We could never get ahead because there's always somebody putting us down. So even in 2020, they said, you got all the resources, you got access to the World Wide Web. Why can't you guys pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Why can't you get yourself together? Why can't you own businesses? Why can't you educate your own kids? Why can't you buy your own houses? It's 2020. You have access to wealth. Not knowing that every time we got together as a community and we try to achieve certain goals and purchase plots of land, there's always a plot to destroy us, to keep us in a subservient state of mind, to keep us the slaves that they made us to be in this country. Read that again.
Build ye houses.
So in the after the Emancipation Proclamation, in the 1920s, we had many black Wall Streets all throughout America. Like I said, we was closing the economic gap between blacks and white people. Blacks started to obtain wealth in the system. You have many black Wall Streets. It wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. You have wealth communities in Atlanta. You have Chicago. You have Rosewood. You have Washington, D.C. You have Knoxville, Tennessee. You have New York City, St. Louis as well. And many more cities many more black Wall Streets that we obtained. Read on.
And dwell in them.
And we dwelt in them. So we were able to own our own land, own real estate, and we was able to dwell in our own houses. Read.
And plant gardens.
And we had our own vineyards. We had our own farms. Whereas back then, like say in slavery, we were sharecroppers. Even to the 60s, we were sharecroppers. But certain black communities, we farmed our own land. We produced our own clothing. We had our own raw textile. So we established our own black economic power in certain communities. We did all these things. We had our own food. We did not have to go to the white man for anything. Because every resources that we needed, we had it within our own community. Read.
And eat the fruit of them.
Read.
Take ye wives, and beget sons and daughters.
All right, that's it. Sorry. Now let's go to Ezra chapter 4, verse 1.
Ezra chapter 4, verse 1.
So, Ezra's during the Persian captivity, around 539 BC. Now, during the Persian captivity, you have, as well as when you look at the parallels, when you look at the Bible history is the history of the blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And there's many different parallels between the history during the Babylonian captivity, whether it be the Assyrian, the Persian Mede, the Greek, or the Roman captivity. There's parallels to this day. In American captivities, the things that happened aforetime happen in our time as well. The things that happened yesterday is happening today as well. There's no new thing under the sun. History just repeating. They say history repeats itself because the people are repeating the same acts, the same events. So let's go back during the time of the Persian captivity when you had our forefather Ezra, Nehemiah, you had Esther, you had Zechariah, you had Zerubbabel, you have Joshua, on the prophets and the things that they went through. Because we think that, because it's 2020, yes, America is the worst captivity, but our fathers experienced the same conditions as well as the same plots and conspiracies that placed against them as well. Let's read that. Book of Ezra chapter 4, verse 1.
Ezra chapter 4, verse 1. Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Lord God of Israel.
So when our adversaries, what is another word for adversaries? Our enemies, heard that the children of Judah and Jerusalem, Judah and Benjamin. Judah today is American blacks, so-called African Americans, Negroes of the transatlantic slave trade. And Benjamin is the West Indians of the Indian islands, or the Caribbean islands, such as Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, any islands in the West, in the West Indies. All right.
Then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers, and said unto them, Let us build with you, for we seek your God.
So every time, you notice historically speaking, every time you see blacks unified, come together to build our community, because all throughout history, like I said, we have been exploited and we have been committed mass atrocities against our people. We have been economically also oppressed as a people, socially degraded. So coming together after, like I said, all through everything that we've been through as a people, we try to establish some type of unity or some type of, we try to develop some type of, community to build our own nations, to have our own. Just like you have Chinese have what? Chinatown. You have Indians, they have their own section that they live, area that they live in. You have Russians. So every nation, even within America, they have their own plot of land. They have their own businesses. They have their own towns, which they can prosper by, and communities which they can live in collectively as a race. So us, after we were granted freedom, liberty to come back and to Jerusalem during the Persian captivity, you have the adversaries, meaning the enemies of our nation. Who's our enemies? Everybody outside the 12 tribes. Every nation that had their hands in our slavery. Whether it be East Indians, they had their hand in our slavery. Whether it be the Arabs, this trans-Saharan slave trade, they had their hand in our slavery. You have Caucasians, whether it be French, Dutch, British, Irish. All Caucasians had their hands in our slavery. Africans, which are not our people, yes. You have Hamitic and we're Shemitic. They had our hands in our slavery. So whenever we got together collectively as a community to build, you always had the other nations trying to integrate, trying to infiltrate our movements. And you can see that as a civil rights movement. All of our movements have been destroyed through integration, through infiltration. Read that. That verse again?
Then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers, and said unto them, let us build with you.
Let us build with you. Let us march with you. Let's be a part of your organization. That's why you have your Black Lives Matters. At first, Black Lives Matter is supposed to be an organization that benefits Black people, exploited Black people, and a voice for the downtrodden, a voice for the oppressed. But Black Lives Matter, when you look at the people behind it, George Soros or the LGBTQ movement, was hijacked. The Black Lives Matter movement was utilized as a Trojan horse for the LGBTQ movement to establish themselves as a political power. And that's why you see now the Black Lives Movement has been transformed and integrated with the LGBT movement. And now you have the Black Power symbol with the LGBTQ flag. So this is the main objective of these other nations in terms of building with us. It's not so much to build with us. It's not so much that they want to benefit us. They want to see us prosper as a people. No, they want to integrate. They want to dilute the movement. They want to weaken the movement. Just like our brother Malcolm stated, if you have coffee, not a lot of people like their coffee dark, black. It's a little bit too strong for them. It's like America. They say, oh, you guys are too black. You're too militant. You guys are too cultural. You're too for yourself. You're too unified. No, we got to dilute it. We got to put a little sugar in a tank. We have to sweeten it up, put sweeteners in it. We have to make it light so that you use your flavor, you use the taste. You lose your agenda. And that's what happened throughout all these movements all throughout our history, or from from the civil rights movement all the way to today. All of our movements have been hijacked by other nations, Caucasians primarily, and taken over. And they place their agenda within it. Read on.
For we seek your God.
So they said, we seek your God. We seek your agenda. Read.
As ye do.
As you do. We stand for what you stand for. You stand for civil rights as well as we stand for the civil rights of Black people. We understand your plight. We understand your oppression. We understand what you're going through. We want to fight for you. We want to stand for you. Read.
And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, ye have nothing to do with us to build an house unto our God.
Because our fathers understood the plot of the other nations. Our fathers understood that we don't need you. We don't need assistance of any other nations. We got everything we need. We have a constitution to build off of. We have a God to direct us. So why is it that we're going to seek help from the same people that destroyed us? And that goes to basic common knowledge, common sense. You don't request help or you don't receive help from those very same people that exploited you, that destroyed you, that ripped you of your identity, that enslaved you, that raped your mothers, that raped your fathers, that took your children away from you? Why would you seek help and thinking that now, all of a sudden, this magically, they're for your benefit? After 20 or 30 years after emancipating you, now all of a sudden, the Most High changed their heart to what? To have some type of pity for you? No. And first and foremost, the whole Emancipation Proclamation and the freeing of slaves was an economic move, was a financial move. Like I said, it benefited them. The North didn't have the same benefits that the South did, and that's why you have the Civil War, to have to equal the playing ground. Read on.
But we ourselves together will build unto the Lord God of Israel.
That's why our fathers always knew, never trust your enemy. And Malcolm knew it too. We ourselves will only build with what? Read that again.
But we ourselves together will build.
We ourselves together. Because we got everything we need as a nation. Why do we need other nations for what? What do they have to benefit us? We got mathematicians. We got scholars. We have architects. We have everything we need as a people. And shoot, if you look at it, we built America. So why is it that we need a people that was just placed over us, that oppressed us, that's forced hard labor? They didn't give us the blueprint. We're the one that built the White House. We built the railroads. We built we built most of the inventions in America. The flashlight. Not the flashlight. The light bulb. The railroads. The traffic light. The first cars. Everything you see was inventions made by black people. Refrigerator. Everything came from us. But what happened? They stole the patent. They stole the patent and they said, I did it. Thomas Edison and many people. It took black inventions. All the houses. You think white people did that? They call us lazy. But meanwhile, the whole America would not be the economical power that it is today if it wasn't for its free slave labor. America would not be the political power, the economical power, if it wasn't for black people. Or everything that America is what black people made it to be. Black people put the salt on the chicken. Black people gave the flavor that America that possessed today to make America the most powerful country. If you look, every country, every nation, every superpower was developed through the enslavement of the Israelites. Because why? Every nation knew if you could enslave, if you could keep captured the children of Israel, then you would have blessings upon blessings upon blessings. That's why every nation, every place prospered. Egypt prospered with the Israelites. You have Assyrian captivity, prospered. You have the Babylonian. All these captivities prospered because of why? They had subjected the children of God. And we built up those empires. And after we left those empires, what happened to them? They were all destroyed. They're just a page in the history book. Europe. We made all the castles, all the great infrastructures you see in Europe, the catacombs, the colosseums. You have your castles, your cathedrals. Those were black built. We built Europe. We built America. We built many of these empires. So we have everything that we need. But now we need to go to the other nations to ask them for help. For what? Read.
But we ourselves together will build unto the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, have commanded us. Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah.
You see, then the other nations, the Caucasians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the East Indians, the Arabs, the Africans, then they plotted together to weaken our hand. Just like in every movement, black power movement, you have always the other nations, the Caucasians. You have today in modern period, you have the FBI, you have the CIA, you have J. Edgar Hoover, you have COINTELPRO. They infiltrated all our movements to weaken our hand, whether it be through feminism, whether it be through drugs, whether it be through welfare system, food stamps. We're gonna go into that. Whether it be through mass incarceration, whether it be laws passed, they weaken our hand. We read.
And troubled them in building.
And troubled us in building every movement. Every political movement that we have, power movement, black power movement that we developed, that we had, whether it be Marcus Garvey's movement, what is it, the UNIO, the Universal Negro, UNIO, Universal Negro Improvement Organization. I believe that's it. Read on.
And hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose.
They hired counselors against us to frustrate our purpose. What is the counselors? They hired agent provocateurs. They hired COINTELPRO to infiltrate all our movements. Read.
All the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia.
So even during the time of the Persian Mede captivities, is to this day, to this very day, they infiltrate us through their secret agents, through their agents, also through their COINTELPRO, the FBI, the CIA. Even today, you have agents within Israelite movements. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 6 now. Nehemiah 4, verse 6.
Book of Nehemiah, chapter 4, verse 6.
Let me get it. Okay, read that.
So built we the wall.
So now this is during the time of Nehemiah's time period. So what?
So built we the wall.
So during Nehemiah's time period, they built the wall. Ezra and them built the temple. Nehemiah and them built the wall. Read.
And all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof. For the people had a mind to work.
So we had a mind to work. And you see that during with the civil rights movement, collectively, we had a mind to work. We had a mind to establish our own communities. Also during the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, we had a mind to work. You have after the destruction of our nation through slavery, the exploitation, the degradation, the genocide of our people, we had a mind to work together to establish black thriving communities. Read.
But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up.
They heard when we built our black wall streets. I'm going to show you the parallels today from back then. There's nothing new under the sun. When they heard that we built Tulsa, Oklahoma up, when they heard that there was black wealth, there was that we established black businesses, entrepreneurs, we have movie theaters, we have churches, we had airports, we have banking systems, we had land, we had farms, we had school systems. When they found out during the 20s, in Atlanta, in Louisiana, in Chicago, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in Rosewood, when they found out that black people were building successful black communities, what happened?
And that the breaches begin to be stopped.
And we built the breaches begin to be stopped. We start to build up our communities. We start to instill black power. We start to instill confidence within our kids. We start to educate our kids. Not with European. We start to educate them with black education. Read.
Then they were very wroth.
The other nations always get mad. Every time they see us gather together, every time they see us thriving, every time they see us trying to benefit our community, they get very wroth. Read.
And conspired all of them together.
And they always conspire. There's always a secret plot. And it's always the same plot, what you're going to see once we go through the various communities, black communities, communities that we established through the 20s. Every time they see black people thriving, you're going to see what happened then, is happening now. Not just now, but in the 20s. Throughout every single captivity, there's always a plot. There's always jealousy, envy against black people thriving, or really Israelites thriving as a whole. Read.
And conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem.
And they all, wait, does that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound familiar? We're going to show you. Read.
And to hinder.
They all then come together to fight against Jerusalem, you so-called blacks and Hispanics. Every time we build some type of economical power or some type of wealth, we acquire some type of land, or we establish some type of thriving community, there's always a secret plot. There's always a deep-rooted, intense envy and hatred embedded with these other nations to see us thriving. Because they understand when they see black power, when they see us coming together as a people, they say, oh, no. The last time they came together, the last time they thrived, they came closer to their God. And once they come closer to the God, We understand the prophecies. We understand our plight once these things happen. So every time they see something, every time they see us build something, they always tend to throw down. Anything else?
That's first time.
No. Okay. Get me Nehemiah 2 verse 10 now. And then we're going to go to the article, Atlanta race riots. And then pull up on the video, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street bombing. All right, go. Read.
Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 10. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel.
So just like during the time of Nehemiah, when the other people saw us seek the welfare, the benefit of of our people, what happened? They always came against us. They were what? They had envy, exceedingly angry. Read that again.
When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel.
You see, it grieved them that there was a man to come to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. Think about it. Why would it anger you to seek the welfare of your own people? Why would they do it? Why would you be angry? Why would you be grieved? Because they understand. Once we come together collectively, there's strength, and their strength is in conquering and dividing us. Our strength is in unification. So anytime we unify, they understand that is a detriment. That's detrimental towards their agenda. What benefits them is disunity within black communities. What benefits us is unity within our communities. That's our strength. Now, let's pull up the article. 8 successful and aspiring black communities destroyed by white neighbors. We're going to read the first one, Atlanta race riot. And do you got the video? Yep, start the Atlanta race riot. So look for that.
Atlanta race riot, 1906. When the Civil War ended, African Americans in Atlanta began entering the realm of politics, establishing businesses and gaining notoriety as a social class. Increasing tensions between black wage workers and white elite began to grow, and ill feelings were further exacerbated when blacks gained more civil rights, including the right to vote.
So it says, read that again. Read it again. It says, read it from the top one more time.
Yes, sir. When the Civil War ended, African Americans in Atlanta began entering the realm of politics, establishing businesses.
So we started establishing businesses, entering the realm of politics. Read.
And gaining notoriety.
So we started gaining fame, notoriety. Read.
As a social class. Increasing tension.
As a social class. Because why? We're not considered citizens of America, but denizens. So when they saw us, thriving in politics, in the realm of politics, establishing businesses, as well as gaining notoriety, and as a social class, read.
Increasing tensions between black wage workers and the white elite.
You see, we're just black wage workers and white elites. The white elites, meaning the powers, meaning the white politicians, the white elites became angry when they saw the black community start to thrive, start to do better for themselves, start to get recognition, notoriety as a social class, as a people. They said, no. We destroyed you so you can stay in conditions. So anytime they see someone seeking the welfare of the people, of their own people, they get angry. Read.
Began to grow, and ill feelings were further exacerbated between blacks gained more civil rights, including the right to vote.
Go on.
The tensions exploded during the gubernatorial election of 1906, in which M. Hawk Smith and Clark Howell competed for the Democratic nomination. Both candidates were looking for ways to disenfranchise African American voters because they each felt that the black vote could throw the election to the other candidate.
So it says both candidates were looking for ways to disenfranchise African American voters. It says that both of the candidates just said, how can we How can we destroy this movement? How can we destroy everything that they're trying to build? Read.
Hope Smith was a former publisher of the Atlanta Journal, and Clark Howell was the editor of the Atlanta Constitution.
So they controlled the media. They controlled the newspaper. They controlled the information. Does that sound familiar today? The person that controls the information that goes out controls the narrative. They could change it and make it look whatever the way they wanted to make it look, and deceive the masses of the people. They have the ability, they have the power to shape society and their thoughts. Read.
Both candidates used their influence to incite white voters and help spread the fear that whites may not be able to maintain the current social order.
It's the same thing they do today. That's why you have the nationalists. They see Black Lives Matter. They see the Israelites rising up, and they're saying that they're trying to take our country. This is make America great again. So every time they see black people rising up in some type of political power, any politics, whether it be thriving through economically, through businesses, gaining notoriety, they always feel that deep, intense fear within them that we're going to overthrow them, just like with Hispanics. They say in the year 2030, America is going to be the majority of minorities. Minority is going to be the majority, and white people is going to be the minority, even though white people are the minority. But because why they put it out, because they have conquered and divided us, they make it seem that what? We're the minority. That's why it says black people make up only 30% of the United States. Well, in reality, we're just not black. We're not black one individual race. No, we're the 12 tribes, so we make up the majority. But so because of that fear of us becoming the majority, what do? They put certain policies in place to keep us from becoming the majority. That's why you have the immigration laws put in place by Trump. You have the immigration laws that if you're an illegal citizen, they have to be deported from the United States if you weren't born, if you weren't grandfathered in, or if you weren't born on American soils, that you can't obtain your citizenship but by legal means. Whereas before, you have many people from Mexico, Peru, you have Ecuador, traveling, migrated to the Americas, for a better opportunity. Because there's more work, there's more opportunity, and sometimes they'll send the money back. So that's why they have ICE agents. They have the ICE agents, the immigration agencies, that's putting policies in place, or Trump first and foremost, putting policies in place to keep Latinos from coming over here, because they have that deep-rooted fear that we're going to take over, and which we are going to take over eventually, but not this country, because it's going to be completely decimated. Read on.
The Atlanta Georgian and the Atlanta News began publishing stories about white women being molested and raped by black men.
Wait. Doesn't that sound very familiar? During the Persian captivity, they thought of ways. They plotted together. They hired people. They plotted together. Anytime we would unify, we built together. And the common denominator with all of these black, like I said, all of the, like I said, atrocities done to a lot of these black Wall Streets or black communities, it all has the same common denominator. It always have to deal with the white woman. It was never something creative. You think they'll be creative? Okay, they used the white woman this time. But no, every single time, every article what you're gonna experience, you're gonna witness, is they use the same plot every single time. The white woman, the white woman, the white woman, the white woman, the white woman. Listen, we did not lust at the white woman the way black men will lust at the white woman today. Back then, we have more self-love for our women. We have more self-love for ourselves and for our women. And first of all, nobody wanted those flat pancakes back then, when we have a woman looking like a damn castle in the mountains. No. Why would you want to lay your head on the floor when you can lay your head on a pillow? 2 pillows. No. We got everything. We have all the fluff in the world to go lay our head on some cardboard box. We did not need that. So for some reason, the white man always felt the need that they thought that we lusted after the flat iron board. You know what I'm saying? No, we don't need your iron board. You know what I'm saying? we if our women, we got to get the steamer. Read on.
These allegations were reported multiple times and were largely false.
Mm-hmm.
On September 22nd, 1906, Atlanta newspapers reported that 4 alleged assaults on local white women.
Here we go, white woman again. It's always the white woman. Read.
Soon, some 10,000 white men and boys began gathering,
Mm-hmm.
beating, and stabbing blacks. It was estimated that there were between 25 and 40 African American deaths.
Mm-hmm.
It was confirmed that there were only 2 white deaths.
Okay, that's it. Now let's go to the next one. So that's the first one. When you look at the parallels between the Persian captivity in the 1920s with the Atlantic race riots, it's the same instances. It's the same occurrences happening all over again. Every time we achieve some type of goal of ours, or we thrive as a community, we unify as a people, and uplift ourselves, you always have an agenda to destroy us, to keep us in a lower state that they left us in. Anytime you see any type of political involvement with blacks, every time economic involvement, entrepreneurship, or land ownership, there's always a deep-rooted envy, hatred that they develop, and they always plot against us. It's always the same plot. Like you see during the time of Ezra. You have during the time of Ezra, it says, and they hired counsels against them to frustrate their purpose. During the time of Nehemiah, it's the same thing. They plotted against them. Zerubbabel, the same thing. All right, let's go to the next one. No, the same article, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street now. The same article. The same article was just that.
Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
May 31st, June 1st, 1921.
Mm-hmm.
During the oil boom of the 1910s, the area of the northeast Oklahoma around Tulsa flourished,
Mm-hmm.
including the Greenwood neighborhood, which came to be known as the Black Wall Street. The area was home to several lawyers, realtors, doctors, and prominent black businessmen, many of them multi-millionaires. Greenwood boasted...
Wait, go back to that.
Yes.
The area was home to what?
The area was home to several lawyers.
The area, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood neighborhood, was what? Was
home to several lawyers.
So we had lawyers. This is after slavery, not too far after slavery. Now you would think after the Emancipation Proclamation, after they released us from slavery, they didn't give us land. They didn't give us anything. They didn't give us land. They didn't give us wealth. They didn't give us money. They didn't give us nothing to jumpstart ourselves. They said, go ahead. Be free and prosper. So us, we said, okay, we found a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood neighborhood, and we said, you know what? Let's start our own community. Now, they didn't think that's their fear. Even after slavery and during slavery, we were still able, after they exploited us, after they kept us from reading and writing, after they kept us from being educated, learning their political system, learning their economical system, learning their trading system, the stock market. After they kept us from all that knowledge and information, this 20 to 40 years afterwards, we were able to still thrive. That shows you the power that we possess as a people. That's why they have to keep us in these conditions. That's why they have to plot against us. That's why they have to conspire against us. That's why they have to construct social experiments and miseducate us. Because any form, even just with the small amount of time we have as people connect together, without any secret plots or conspiracies against us, because of the God body, because of that, the spirit that's within us as a people, because of who we are, we thrive faster than anybody. We develop and learn faster than anybody. Read on.
The area was home to several lawyers, realtors.
Now, how do we become realtors and we were just emancipated from slavery? How do we learn this information, this knowledge? Read.
Doctors.
That shows you the intellects of our people, how smart we truly are. When we're not distracted. That's why today they distract us with the media. They distract us with television. They distract us with music. They distract us with the political agendas right now between the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the education. They distract us in every angle of our lives with sports, because they understand when we sit down collectively and we pick up a book, we apply ourselves, there's nothing that we can't do as a people. And actually, we advance way further than any other nation. We advance further than any and thrive further than any other nation. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that we will take over immediately. Read on.
And prominent black businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them multi-millionaires.
Wait a minute. Many of the black businessmen were multi-millionaires. You know what a multi-millionaire is? Hundreds of millions of dollars straight out of slavery. Who was able to obtain that within a short period of time. Listen, I would be mad as hell too. Listen, if I was a white man, I'll do the same thing. That's why I'm not mad. I'm mad as hell, but I'm not mad to a certain extent, because if I was them, I'll do the same thing, and not worse. Well, they did worse, so I'll probably do the same thing they did. How the hell they became we just took the kids from them. We miseducated them. We gave them no land. We took their land from them. We took everything from them. How is it that they just come out of slavery? They're able to thrive, so they're able to thrive as a community. After we exploited them, after we took everything from them, after we dumbed them down, after we miseducated them. How is it that they're in an equal playing field? Multi-millionaires. Read.
Greenwood boasted a variety of thriving businesses such as grocery stores, clothing stores.
We own our own food produce. Grocery stores, clothing stores. We had our own raw textiles to make our own clothing. Read.
Barbershops.
We had our own barbershops. We owned the store. Read.
Banks.
We had our own banks, meaning we didn't go to other nations. When the scripture says, "Thou shalt not lend, they shall lend to thee, but thou shalt not lend to them," but we lent to our own selves. That's why they had to come in, because we had to live out the curses. The Most High says, "Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit." So the Most High says, "You're not going to listen. First and foremost, I'm going to remind you who you are. You're doing this all without me. You can't do this without me. So I'm going to activate the curses one more time. This is to show you who's in charge. Show you who's the one that's responsible for all this destruction of all the black thriving communities." Read.
Hotels.
We own hotels. Read.
Cafes.
We own cafes. Go on.
Movie theaters.
Go on.
2 newspapers.
We own 2 newspapers. We own the information going out. We control the narrative. We control what went in our people's mind, what they consume, the information that they consume. We control the education that they receive. That's why they try to prevent Bill Cosby and many other celebrities from obtaining news stations, because they understand once we control a media or any type of newscaster station, we control the information and the narrative that they push out about us. We're able to flip the image. We're able to show a positive image of black people. Because the reason why the world thinks of us the way we are, the reason why we keep up with the same characteristics, and we do the same, we repeat the same actions, because they keep on pushing out there. If you push something out there for so long, you start to become what is it that the narrative that they're placing out there. You place it in the movies, you place it in the music, you place it all over the place. You start to believe in it. And you start to become that. So when we control the narrative, we say, no, we're not going to promote within our music the exploitation of black women. We're not going to promote promiscuity. We're not going to promote black on black crime. We're not going to promote gang banging. We're not going to promote drug dealing. We're not going to promote these things. We're not going to show on the 10 o'clock news of a black criminal. We're not going to we're not going to exploit our children. We're not going to mass incarcerate our people. We're not going to do all those things when you control all the information, when you control your environment. Read on.
In many contemporary homes, Greenwood residents enjoyed many luxuries that their white neighbors did not.
You see that? We surpassed them in everything. All the luxuries in a very short time, they became envious Because the things that we accomplish in a very short time, they were not able to accomplish with a 400-year start. That shows you the difference between us and them. That shows you the spirit that we possess in us. Read.
Including indoor plumbing and a remarkable school system.
Indoor plumbing. We have plumbers and a remarkable school system. Read.
The dollar circulated 36 to 100 times, sometimes taking a year for currency to leave the community.
That means we did not need outside assistance. We did not need white assistants. We did not need white bankers. Now, once in a while, like I said, the dollar circulated, went outside of community because why? Because of trade. Now, we've always done that throughout history. We always established relationships through trade because there's certain textiles and items that we might not possess that they possess. So that's the only time the dollar's going to circulate outside of our community is for trade reasons, which is natural, which is normal business transactions. So that's the only time. But we controlled everything. We controlled the resources within our community. Read on.
The neighborhood was destroyed during a riot that broke out after a group of men from Greenwood attempted to protect a young black man from a lynch mob.
Let's see. Why were they trying to protect him from a lynch mob? Why were they trying to lynch him? Read.
On the day of May 31st, 1921, a mob called for the lynching of Dick Rowland, a black man who shined shoes, after reports spread that on the previous day he had assaulted Sarah Page.
Another white woman. It's always the same plot. It's always the same accusation. Black man of Atlanta race riots in Atlanta, raped a white woman. Black man in Tulsa, Oklahoma, raped a white woman, assaulted a white woman. It's the same accusation every time. The accusers of their brethren. Read.
A white woman. In the elevator she operated in a downtown building. In the early morning hours of June 1st, 1921, Black Tulsa was looted, firebombed from the air, and burned down by white rioters. The governor declared martial law, and the National Guard troops arrived in Tulsa. Guardsmen assisted firemen in putting out fires, removed abducted African Americans from the hands of white vigilantes, and imprisoned all black Tulsians not already confined into a prison camp at the convention hall in the fairgrounds.
So they destroyed a whole town, killed hundreds of people just for the accusation or the rumor of a black man assaulting one white woman. So they'll find the excuse of one white woman. Say, so hypothetically speaking, if it was a white woman, do you destroy a whole community? Do you bomb a community? You kill hundreds of black people for one white woman, even though it was a false accusation? Because anytime, the whole ploy was the envy of black business entrepreneurs thriving above their white neighbors. Because of, like I said, the disadvantages that white people had over black people, they didn't take advantage, or they didn't thrive over us. They got jealous. They became envious because we surpassed them in information. Now, let's go to the video clip. Look at this. All for an accusation, a reported rumor of an assault of a white woman. They desecrated a whole town. Destroyed it, burnt it down to the ground. Murdered hundreds. watchmen. Let's go to the next one. So you have Atlanta race riots. You have Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. You have the Chicago race riots. Let's go to Rosewood. We're not going to go through all of them. I just want to go through a few just to show you the common denominator within all of these riots, within thriving black communities. All of them have the very same agenda, the same accusations.
Rosewood Massacre, 1923. Rosewood was...
So, those of you, the reason why I went to Rosewood, because there's a movie called Rosewood. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go on.
Rosewood was a quiet, self-sufficient whistle stop on the Seaboard Airline Railway in Florida. By 1900, the population in Rosewood had become predominantly African American. Some people farmed or worked in local businesses, including a sawmill in nearby Sumner, a predominantly white town. In 1920, Rosewood blacks had 3 churches.
So in 1920, we have 3 churches, read.
A school,
education. So we control the religion. We control the information coming out in the churches. We control the information coming out in the educational systems. Read.
A large Masonic hall, turpentine mill, a sugarcane mill.
We control our food resources. Read.
A baseball team and a general store.
We had our own baseball team, our own sports team. Read.
A second one was white owned. The village had about 24 plank-story homes, some other small houses, as well as several small unoccupied plank structures. Spurred by unsupported accusations that a white woman...
Once again, a white woman. It's always the same accusation. A white woman. Whether it be Atlanta, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Chicago race riots, Rosewood, it's always a white woman. Read.
And Sumner had been beaten and possibly raped by a black drifter. White men from a number of nearby towns lynched a Rosewood resident. When the black citizens defended themselves against further attack, several hundred whites combed the countryside, hunting black people and burning almost every structure in Rosewood.
Now it said a black drifter. So what does a black drifter have to do with all of the people within the town? That if he's a drifter, that means he's not from there. So they used that as an excuse because they see there was somebody there for the welfare of their people. Anytime they see them trying to peer the breaches of our community, anytime we start to thrive, we start to educate ourselves, we start to teach ourselves, we start to develop businesses, farming, food, raw textiles. Anytime we did these things for our community, it was never, like you said, it was never, them seeking justice, righteous justice for what happened to their white woman. No, it was because of the envy. They used that as an excuse to attack us as a whole and to destroy a town. Because why, if you're seeking justice, wouldn't you just seek justice for one individual and lock that one person up? Shouldn't that individual pay for their crimes? It was never about the individual or the crime they committed. It was about the black community thriving above white community, not white neighbors. Go on.
Survivors hid for several days in nearby swamps and were evacuated by train and car to larger towns. Although state and local authorities were aware of the violence, they made no arrests for the activities in Rosewood. At least 6 blacks and 2 whites were killed, and the town was abandoned by black residents during the attacks.
All right, so we're going to stop there. All right, so you have about 8 thriving, and there's more than 8. There's about 20 thriving black communities within the United States. During the same time period was all destroyed. Most of them all, if you notice how what they all have in common, the black communities were all during the early 1900s, during the 1920s. And it was almost like if there was a message put out there that we're going to do mass attacks on all these black communities. Because they all happened during the same years. So it's like all the white communities throughout the United States communicate with each other. It says, we're going to use this. That's why you read the book of Ezra. They say they hired counsels against them to frustrate their purpose. They plotted against us. They tried to frustrate our purpose. They hated the fact that we were thriving and we were building. They didn't want They didn't want America to be darkened. They didn't want America to be prospered by the same people that they exploited and enslaved. They didn't want the same people that they exploited to what? To start to take control of political positions or start to own real estate. Once you start to own real estate and once you start to get politics, you have power. You can start to change laws that benefit your people. You can make the playing ground, you can make it an equal playing ground because you have the politicians that makes the laws that keep black people from obtaining loans as well as real estate. That's why you have redlining. It's the politicians that create laws to keep us from thriving together as a people. So once we have black people within politics, they say no, they can change laws that will benefit their people. And to benefit their people, they'll change laws to what? Give us loans. Once we have ownership of banks, that means if you see the movie The Banker, they had to go in secretly. They had to go in through an Edomite, a Caucasian, and they had to put his face as the face of the banker. Because why? They understood if we own our own banks, then we'll try to benefit, we'll give loans to our own people. That our people will be able to own their own businesses. And by owning their own businesses, businesses will be able to put the money back into the community, to build up the community. And eventually, by putting the bankers putting money back into black businesses, that money goes back into the community and it keeps on recycling. And you pay the bank out, the bank is able to get more loans, and then that's how you have another Black Wall Street. So in order to prevent that, they put policies and laws in place to prevent us from obtaining the same, like I said, the same political power or the same benefits that they have. All right? Let's go to Job chapter 20, verse 19.
This is the book of Job, chapter 20, verse 19. Because he have oppressed and have forsaken the poor, because he have violently taken away an house which he built not.
So they have oppressed and what? And forsaken?
Because he have oppressed and have forsaken the poor.
Because they oppressed us and forsaken us. Not only did they oppress us throughout 400 years of shadow slavery, but after we were emancipated, they forsaken us. They didn't give us what? The 2 acres and a mule. The 40 acres, sorry. They didn't give us the 40 acres and a mule that they promised us. They didn't give us the land that they promised us. They didn't give us wealth. They didn't give us a start. They didn't even give us a boot to be able to pull ourselves up from. Neither shoestrings. They didn't give us any of that. So not only did they oppress us, but they forsook us. They left us drying out. They left us to what? To fend for ourselves. Read.
Because he have violently taken away an house which he built not.
And not only they oppress us and forsake us, left us hanging to what? To survive on our own. But when we did thrive, when we did unify, when we did acquire some of America's wealth, what did they do?
Because he had violently taken away an house.
They violently taken away our houses. They violently destroyed our communities. They destroyed Chicago. They destroyed Atlanta. They destroyed Rosewood. They destroyed Knoxville. They destroyed Washington, D.C. They destroyed all thriving Central Park. They destroyed all thriving black communities all throughout America. The many Black Wall Streets, they destroyed. Go to Ezekiel 35, verse 5.
Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
Who's this talking about? Go to verse 2.
Verse 2. Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir.
Set thy face against Mount Seir. Who's Mount Seir? Edom. Who's Edom? The forefather, Esau is the forefather of the Edomites today, who are the Caucasian race. Read.
And prophesy against it.
And prophesy against all Caucasians. Now jump down to verse 5.
Verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
Because Esau has a perpetual hatred, meaning an everlasting hatred. Read.
And has shed the blood of the children of Israel.
And we see that they shed the blood not only in slavery, not only through the various captivities, but they shed the blood even during the 20s. Anytime we have thriving black communities, we obtain some type of economical power, equal playing fields, they shed the blood. They killed us in mass numbers. They did mass lynchings. They killed us in high numbers. They killed our women. They killed our men. They put us in concentration camps. They shed the blood because of the hatred, because of the envy, the jealousy, the insecurities. Read.
And has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword.
By the force of the sword. They even sent bombers. They sent the plane, the military, to a bomb. That was the first time that there was domestic terrorism on American soil. The first time there was domestic terrorism, I'm not talking about Pearl Harbor. Prior to Pearl Harbor, the first time the domestic terrorism on American soil was Tulsa, Oklahoma, when you have the military came in on a fighter jet and bombed the cities, the towns. And they also did that in the MOVE movement in the 1980s. They bombed a whole block in Philadelphia. So they always envied us. They always, every time we had any type of unified movement or any type of thriving community, or anytime we have black business owners, entrepreneurs, you have bankers with lawyers with the same mindset that sought the welfare of the people, because Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street was black business owners, bankers, doctors, the elite black people, the upper class of the black race, the bourgeoisies of the black people. Once they got together, they said, you know what? Let's build up our community. Let's educate our people. And all black people thrive together above their white counterparts. So, they did what? Read that last part again.
By the force of the sword in the time of their calamity.
By the force of the sword in the time of our calamity. Read.
In the time that their iniquity had an end.
Because we were emancipated in 1865. That was the time our iniquity had an end. So after we were emancipated, they still found reasons and plots to destroy us, conspiracies, to destroy us and overthrow us, to keep us in the same conditions. They always knew once we thrive together as a people, once we unify, they don't control the information. That's why they have to conquer and divide us so they can control what's being taught within these circles. They can control the information that's being shared amongst the groups. That's the whole reason why they separate blacks from West Indians from Haitians. That's why they change our names. That's why they divide us through religion. That's why they divide us through neighborhoods. That's why they divide us through gangs, through flags, through language. It's to keep the information separate, to control the information that's being fed to different communities, to keep us divided so we never unify. All right? Let's go to Ezekiel 1 verse 15. No, Zechariah 1 verse 15. Zechariah chapter 1 verse 15.
This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1 verse 15. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease.
So God says he is very sore with the heathen. So all they're praying, God bless America. God we trust. You don't trust in the God of the Bible. The God said he is very sore displeased. He's pissed off for all the nations that had a hand in the destruction of Jerusalem. Read.
For I was but a little displeased.
God was yet, damn, I know what that means. He said, I was yet a little displeased. After you look at black history, after you look at the genocides of our people, the conditions that we're placed in, God says, I was yet a little displeased. So you haven't seen the true anger of God. You're going to see the true anger of God once his son makes his return. You're going to see it turned up all the way to the point that our race is going to be decimated. That's going to be the true anger of God. When he disintegrates a race, when he Thanoses you, when he snaps that finger to the left. Go on.
And they helped forward the affliction.
So after the Most High, I say, you know what? I'm gonna allow them an opportunity. I'm gonna allow them a space of repentance. Because in slavery, how much repentance could we do? We didn't have information. We couldn't share the information. We couldn't teach our people. They control the information. They keep us in a lower state. They kept us working 24/7. So there was no actual opportunity for us to gather and to build together or educate each other or teach each other the laws of God. So what did they do? He says he was a little sore displeased, but they forward the affliction, the time period that God gave us. Just like you have in the book of Revelation. It says, and the spirit of life came upon them, and they stood up upon their feet. That was the little displeased. I mean, that was the emancipation of the Israelites to what? Gain repentance. That was the grace period, time period God gave us to what? For the breath of life to come into us. So instead of giving us that time period to build up spiritually, to educate ourselves scripturally, to re-identify ourselves as the children of Israel, because the white men knew that there's going to be a certain prophet that will be brought on this earth during a certain time period, and we're going to get into that. What was the truth thriving through the 60s, the 70s? The white man knew it. They says, no, I'm not going to give you guys this small time period or space of repentance that God gave you. God says after 350 years, the spirit of life came into them. What happened to those other years? We were in slavery. So after slavery, that was the time that our iniquity would have an end to it. The Most High gave us a time period or a grace period to be able to learn who we are and come back to the laws. But Esau said no. Esau forwarded the affliction. He says, no, I'm not going to give you that leisure, that opportunity to build. I'm going to, push back the time. I'm going to slow down the time for you. So that, because they understand that if we collectively unify as a whole, as all 12 tribes, as a nation, that's the end of their kingdom. So because of that information, they have created secret plots. They have established social experiments in order to keep us in these deplorable conditions and even to destroy us more than we were in slavery. All right? Now, let's go to the next section, the next segment of class. The 1920s. 1920s was the year of the Negro, meaning the year of Black empowerment, Black economical power, Black political power, Black wealth, thriving Black communities within America, equal wealth. So after the 20s, they destroyed Black people. They destroyed our communities, they destroyed our towns, they destroyed our cities. So after you destroy something, they say, wait a minute, get me Judas chapter 5, verse 21. They said, okay, we made a mistake. What we can't do again is allow them to be in a cell. We told them, go ahead. They thought what they thought what happened didn't happen. They says, they can't survive. They'll come right back to us. We let them go. We didn't give them no wealth. We didn't give them no money. We didn't give them no land. We gave them nothing. So they're bound to die off. They're bound to die off. They're bound to come back to us and beg us and plead us to work with us, to work for them again, because they have nowhere to go. They have no resources. They have no tools. They have no machinery. They don't have anything. So let them go. But they don't understand that there's a spirit within us, that Jacob is the creator of all things. They forgot that. They forgot that we built these mighty empires. We built mighty kingdoms. We were the economic power. They forgot that we're descendants of the greatest King Solomon on this earth, of David. Kings that created reservoirs, built pyramids, temples, built cities made of gold. Things that they envied. We have cities, towns. We civilized them. They never civilized us. We civilized them. We taught them after they came out from the caves, scratching, eating lice off each other, panties disintegrating because the white woman never washed her behind. Her secret parts smell like damn dead fish from the Dead Sea. No, we showed them how to shower. We gave them razors. We gave them Gillette. We gave them all that. Now they try to civilize us. No. We civilized you. We taught you how to shower. We taught you how to clean. We taught you how to shave. We probably gave them the douche. Now you try to civilize us? All right. We got your records. What do I want?
You said Judah chapter 5.
Huh?
Judah.
Yeah, Judah chapter 5, verse 21. You know that one, right?
Verse 20.
Read it. Yes.
Judah chapter 5, verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their rule, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them.
You see that? So they says, now, read that again.
Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people,
If there be any sin in this people, read,
and they sin against their God,
and they sin against their God. That's what the other nations knew that we didn't know in the 20s, in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Read.
let us consider that this shall be their rule.
If they sin against their God, this is going to be their ruin. So we can't let them go like we did before. That's where the secret plots. That's why during the Persian captivity, they plotted against us. They conspired against us to keep us in the conditions because they understood once our power is our God. Us thriving as a people is through our commandments. They understood once we learned that, once we learn our true power and our true strength, there's no keeping us back. There's no stopping us. So that's why they always plotted against us. Read.
And let us go up, and we shall overcome them.
So they understood if they could keep us in sin, if they could manipulate us, if they could control what we see, how we think, what we're taught, what we eat, how we operate, how we act amongst each other, what we wear, then they could keep us in our conditions. They could stay within rulership. They understand these things. Is that it?
Verse 21.
Read.
But if there be no iniquity in their nation,
If there be no sin in the nation,
let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them.
let my Lord Pat just said, don't mess with these people. If there's no sin, if they're thriving, if they keep the God's commandments, pass by them. Don't mess with them. Read.
Lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them.
And our God be for us. Read.
And we become a reproach before all the world.
And they plotted and they tried to plot against us even during that time period. So throughout every captivity, there's always a plot, or there's always a conspiracy to destroy black people, the Israelites. And even so to this very same time. So after the 20s, when black communities thrived as a whole, all throughout the United States, you have about over 20 black Wall Streets, not just one that they teach, or barely teach, or that's well known amongst us. But there's many black Wall Streets. So after they destroyed us, they violently taken away our houses in order not to repeat the same mistakes. They planned, they plotted. They put together the greatest blueprint an architect ever designed in American history, all throughout all the history of the earth. They took all the information of all the past. They did experiments, social experiments. They experimented on animals, lab rats. You're going to see. This is called the blueprint. John Calhoun's Rat Utopia.
The work of Dr. John Calhoun at the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C. has attempted to answer this question. In a unique experiment that took years to complete, Dr. Calhoun used white mice to study population growth and its effects on individual behavior.
So you have Dr. John Calhoun, which was an ethologist. He did a study and experiment, which is a scientist. He did a study experiment on rats or animals to study their social behavior in a dense environment. So this experiment was done in the 1950s and was completed in 1962, around the 1960s. So this is the scientist John Calhoun. Go on.
In addition to his renowned research papers, he has recorded some of these observations on film. In this 16-cell mouse habitat, utopian conditions of nutrition, comfort, and housing were provided for.
So it's a utopia, and it said it's 16-cell housing. 16-cell housing. What does that mimic? What does that look like? Project buildings. It's the same structure and design of the project buildings that you see in Chicago, you see in Detroit, you see in Philadelphia, all throughout the United States. When you look at the urban communities, you see the same design of these public housing buildings. It even looks like a housing building. So They start off with 12 mice, which were called the beautiful ones. And in this experiment, they said they provided for their housing, their nutrition, they provided for everything, all their needs. Read.
A population of over 3,000 mice. Yet, in spite of ideal conditions, the mouse population met with catastrophe. Individuals were kept track of by color markings on their fur. Factors which normally control population growth, such as predation by owls or cats, were eliminated. Transmissible disease was also reduced. In effect, the mouse universe simulated the present situation of a continually expanding population of humans. To see how Dr. Calhoun's mouse universe grew, we'll use the familiar population graph again. Within the first 100 days, the mice went through the period Dr. Calhoun called strive.
So you have the first phase, which was called strive. Go on.
This was a period of adjustment. Territories were established.
Wait, you hear that? Stop. So this first phase was called strive. It was a period of adjustment, getting to know their environment. Once the mice start to learn their environment, territories were established. What do we call that now? Gangs. Territories were established. Gangs were established. Read.
And nests were made. The next period lasted about 250 days. The population of the mice doubled every 60 days. This was called the exploit period.
Wait, the exploit period. Now the population started to increase. Now I want you guys to keep in mind the map, the graph. You see how it goes up? Keep in mind the graph, how it goes up. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you something a little bit later. Go on.
The use of resources became unequal. Although each living unit was identical in structure and opportunities, more food and water was consumed in some areas.
So during this period, there's a lack of food and water in certain areas. Even though they was given equal opportunity amongst each other, that everything was divided amongst each other, there was a lack of resources. Go ahead.
Population increased. Most mice associated eating and drinking with the presence of others, and crowding developed in certain units. The third period, consisting of 300 days, found the population of mice leveling off. This was called the equilibrium period. Dr. Calhoun noticed that the newer generations of young were inhibited, since most space was already socially defined. At this time, some unusual behavior became noticeable. Violence became prevalent.
Wait. So you have during the equilibrium period, so you have the first period called strive, which they started adjusting to their environment, adapting to it, and they started developing territories. Then you have the second period, they start to grow in numbers. Then the third period called equilibrium phase, you start to see an increased violence. What we call it today? Increase in crime. Read.
Excess males strived for acceptance, were rejected, and withdrew. Huddling together, they would exhibit brief flurries of violence among themselves. The effects of violence became increasingly visible.
And as time went on, they said the effects of violence became increasingly visible, meaning it couldn't be ignored anymore. It wasn't like there was just one killing here or another kill. No, it was increasingly visible, meaning it was very noticeable. It was running rampant throughout that mice community.
Certain individuals became targets of repeated attack. These individuals would have badly chewed and scarred tails. Other young mice growing into adulthood exhibited an even different type of behavior. Dr. Calhoun called these individuals the beautiful ones. Their time was devoted solely to grooming, eating, and sleeping. They never involved themselves with others, engaged in sex, nor would they fight. All appeared as a beautiful exhibit of the species, with keen, alert eyes and a healthy, well-kept body. These mice, however, could not cope with unusual stimuli. Though they looked inquisitive, they were, in fact, very stupid. Dr. Calhoun called the last period the die phase, leading the population into extinction.
The die phase.
Although the mouse...
So you see, you had the last one, the third phase, was the equilibrium, when you see an increase of violence amongst the mice community because of the dense environment. You cannot put people in a dense environment and not experience any type of frustration or stress, depression. These things come in density. That's why you look at the virus of the lockdown. After everybody was locked down, after you had the civil unrest because of the George Floyd situation, you have massive amounts of people go out and protest on the street, start looting, start burning things down, start fighting, start killing even more. Because when you put people locked up and caged up for a long excess period of time, the stress levels start to increase. Their mental health starts to deteriorate. So the only way they know how to take it out and the anger, frustration is on each other because they're going to take it out on the people that they see before them. Go on.
Although the mouse utopia could house 3,000, the population began to decline at 2,200.
So they began to kill themselves off throughout the die stage, which is the fourth stage. Go on.
In the shift from the equilibrium to the die phase, each animal became less aware of associates, despite all animals being pushed closer together.
You see? Wait. Each animal became less aware of their associates. Meaning they became less aware of the same conditions that they're in. They're less aware that they were the same brothers, that they're all mice or experiments in the same cage, locked up, experiencing the same oppression, experiencing the same exploitation, waking up to the same problems. They start to lose that natural in-depth feeling for one another, that natural love for one another. They became desensitized to each other's feelings, to each other's plight. They start robbing the same people that were poor, exploiting and oppressing the same people that were oppressed. Read, play.
Dr. Calhoun concluded that the mice could not effectively deal with the repeated contact of so many individuals. The evidence of violence increased to the point where most individuals had had their tails bitten to some degree.
It says it got to the point where everybody was being affected by it. People, just like you see in the streets today in Chicago and Detroit, to the point that people that are not even involved in it, the evidence becomes so clear that you have little kids getting shot. You got little babies getting shot. You got women being shot at funerals. That's how intense the violence has increased because of these conditions that we're placed in. A lot of these conditions, a lot of these attributes, behaviors, social behaviors exhibited amongst the black people, black and brown people, is because of the dense environment. These things, through social experiment and evaluation of animals, they were able to replicate what they designed and an experiment on humans. So the same behaviors exhibited amongst mice is not too far of what will be the result amongst human beings. Play.
Eventually, the entire mouse population perished. Dr. Calhoun's experiment is a classic example of a typical population and its growth when left unchecked. Research in this area continues under his supervision. Currently, Dr. James Hill has taken the basics of the Calhoun experiment to study social behavior even more closely. In his experiment, rats are used instead of mice. Healthy individuals are selected to start the population. The rats are anesthetized so that Dr. Hill can perform a minor operation, necessary to the success of his experiments. A small electromagnetic encapsulated device is implanted into every rat. This small unit enables sensing devices to keep track of the movement and position of each individual in the population. After surgery, the rats are introduced to their new multi-leveled home, all at the same time.
Look at that. Look at it. Says the rats are introduced to the new multi-level what? Homes. What is it called? Project. Why they call it a project? Because it's an experiment. It's a project. A project is an experiment. You're looking at the projects all throughout the United States. You're looking at the experiment done on black people, and you want now, don't get me wrong, throughout the scriptures, like you say, you always have black people that exhibit negative behavior contrary to the Bible, or unrighteous behavior. But what the white man did, the scripture says, he forwarded the affliction. He enhanced what was in us, the evil that was within us, he made it worse than what it really is. So yes, there was always crime amongst us. There was hatred amongst us. There was all these evils dwelling amongst Israel. But what the white man did, he took what was in us and he enhanced it by social experiment. Done that was already experimented on rats. And we have terminologies and terms that they put out there, not knowing that this whole thing's in a big experiment. Not knowing that everything, when you look at the archaeology, when you look at the blueprints, and the architect of a lot of these buildings and a lot of these neighborhoods is designed based upon experiment. It's all designed based upon, okay, if I do this design, what type of behavior will come out of this? If I do this design, that design, what type of behavior will come out of that? This is all based upon design, social design. Play.
All at the same time. The rats immediately begin to explore their new environment prior to organizing territories and nesting. Dr. Hill will trace how individuals move about in crowded situations. This movement is followed by tubular sensing devices. Every time a rat enters or passes through a tube, the unit detects and registers its presence. This constant movement is monitored by computer. Nesting activity is also studied. Dr. Hill has observed that the larger the population, the less care a mother gives to her nest and young.
Wait, stop. Yo, this guy's the damn devil the Bible speaks of. Wait, rewind that back a little bit. I want you to really take it slow. Play.
Dr. Hill has observed that the larger the population, the less care a mother gives to her nest and young.
Stop! The larger the population, the less care a nurse and mother gives to her young. What is that called? Oh, we're going to get into that. It's called abortion. It's called abortion. It's called single motherhood. Read.
Nest and young. The same type of individuals that resulted in the mouse utopia are also emerging in the rat population.
So they took, they took two types of creatures, rats. They took mice and they took rats. So knowing that you took two types of rodents, but you're getting the same results. So it doesn't matter what animal, what creature, what type of test subject you use, is exhibiting the same social behaviors. Play.
There are aggressives, asocials, and outcasts. Though these studies use animals, the findings about population growth and individual behavior are being closely compared to our own human population. Like all populations that have existed on this planet, many researchers believe that the human race has reached a crucial point in the exploit phase.
All right, and there's another video I'm not going to play today, but they not only said that in the other video, as the population increased, there was a high infant morbidity. And on top of that, the rats start to partake in homosexual activities. The male rats started mating with each other, having sex with each other. This is the male rats. And this is within a dense environment. So what you're going to see now, give me Isaiah chapter 5, verse 8. There's laws against that for a reason. Because the reason why the Most High, and this is not the first time this happened. In Rome, they did the same thing. They put blacks in Rome. They put the real Israelites, the true Jews, in Rome in high-rise buildings, whereas they wouldn't do that in their own community. And also, they made sure they blocked out the sun in Rome, just like the same way they do in Israelite communities or black communities. Read Isaiah chapter 5, verse 8.
Isaiah chapter 5, verse 8. Woe unto them that join house to house.
The Bible says, woe unto them, meaning that's evil. Destruction unto them that join house on top of house. That put unit on top of unit on top of unit. That develops projects and place people within a dense environment. Read.
That lay field to field, till there be no place that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth.
So the Bible says, woe unto them that place house to house and field to field. There's certain psychological adverse effects that occurs within our mental well-being when you put people in such a dense environment. There's certain stresses that develop. There's certain levels of depression. There's certain angers that develop. There's certain attributes that you develop as an individual because we're not meant to be on top of each other, to see each other every single second. No, people need their space. People need their free time, their personal time. You cannot put people on top of each other to hear each other's business. You can hear what's going on in the next person's room. Right? Now let's go to the next one, the article. Cabrini Green Housing Project.
Cabrini Green Housing Project, Chicago, Illinois, 1942, 2019.
All right, I want you to jump
2009.
down to initially.
Initially, the Francis Cabrini homes had a quota of African-American residents. That quota was abandoned as the African-American population in Chicago nearly doubled in the size between 1940 and 1950. And because the white Chicagoans remained adamantly opposed to integrated housing in their neighborhoods. With the passage of the 1949 Housing Act, which approved another wave of slum clearance and new public housing construction, the Cabrini extension, a high-rise of 1,921 units, was authorized.
New public housing and construction, because they had public housing, but it was never this large, never this big. It says a new public housing construction, the Cabrini extension. They extended the construction. Go on.
That project was completed in 1958, followed by the nearby William Green Homes, another high-rise building, 1,099 units, which was opened in 1962.
Keep that date in mind. It opened in 1962. The Cabrini Green started inhabiting residents in the 1960s. Go on.
All three projects became known as Cabrini Green and were the first example of high-rise public housing primarily for the African-American poor in Chicago. By 1968, public housing through the city of Chicago was predominantly African-American.
Public housing through the city of Chicago was predominantly African-Americans. Read.
With high-rise and unemployment, Cabrini Green, along with other housing projects in the city, became to symbolize the failure of city government in Chicago.
It wasn't a failure of city government. It was their success. Read.
And across the nation to resolve the problems of the concentrated and isolated urban African-American poor.
All right, stop there. Now let's get to the video. We're going to go to 1735. Let's go to the video. Cabrini Green, documentary, 1735.
I think the physical isolation of the community, the actual structure of the high-rise buildings, really does serve to perpetuate the behavioral and psychological.
Go back again. Come on.
I think the physical isolation of the community, the actual structure of the high-rise buildings, really does serve.
The actual structure of the high-rise building does what?
High-rise buildings really does serve to perpetuate the behavioral and psychological problems.
It perpetuates the behavioral and psychological problems that black people have today. When you see black people, yo, I'm a thug. This is how I am. You want hard? Yeah, I'll kill a nigga. You're like, damn, that brother's hard. Damn, that brother came from the hood. You notice how they always say he came from the hood. You notice the difference in personality traits and behavioral traits between black people that were born in urban communities such as the projects, or they call the hoods, and black people that were born in what is called the suburbs. You know, you ever notice there's a different personality trait? People born in suburbs are more calmer, they're more relaxed, more collective, and they thrive more. They thrive a lot more. They have better education. They go more places. And you look at the people within certain dense environments and communities within these projects, you see there's anger with them. They always want to fight. They're more violent. There's more death within those concentrated neighborhoods. You go throughout all cities in America. What they say in the ghettos and the hoods? They say there's always more crime within the black side, which is mainly within the projects. Newark, New Jersey, Chicago, Detroit. If you look at all the crime within all black communities, it's all concentrated within the projects every single time. Oh, that's the Brown. What is it? Brooklyn. That's the Brown Heights or whatever they call it. Newark. That's this project. Oh, Chicago. That's this project. It's always the same thing. Yo, I'm from the projects. Yeah, I'm from the experiment, and that's why they always exhibit certain adverse behavior functions. You're like, yo, why does this dude like this? And then they get on you because you don't act like, yo, you ain't hard, you ain't a thug, you ain't this, you ain't that, you don't walk like, yo, bro, I'm not that because I wasn't put in that environment. Those attributes that you're exhibiting is based upon the environment that you grew up in. You are a successful project. You are a successful creation of the project that they experimented on you. That's what you are. The attributes you possess, I'm a real nigga. I'm a thug. That's not you. That's not real. That's not thug. That's not thugging. You were created. That Dickie Allsop always says the black man was created in America. You were created in the projects. You were created in Cabrini Green. You were created in Robert Taylor projects. All those housing projects, you were made in America. And that's why you look at the difference between black people or people that are born in suburban neighborhoods in comparison to people that are born in the projects. They're a lot more angrier. And they're always angry. Like, why are you always angry? Because of the dense environment. Go back to that, what you're saying. It's heavy what you're saying.
From the rest of society.
I think the physical isolation of the community, the actual structure of the high-rise buildings, really does serve to perpetuate the behavioral and psychological problems.
Dr. Gail Christopher directs a social service program to help welfare families break out of poverty.
In order for me to produce the energy,
many have never been downtown or to the Loop. They've never really had the energy or the resources to venture outside of the community itself. So they don't recognize that this is a smaller part of a much larger world, which is very, very different. And this takes away from their ability to dream, to visualize, to set goals that they could achieve.
Wait, go back.
A much larger world, which is very, very different.
They don't know that there's a much larger world. Why do you think they don't know that there's a much larger world? Because they're trapped in a trap. They're trapped in a trap. You ever hear people say, I'm in a trap house? You are in a trap house. You are in a trap house. You're in a trap called a project. You are in the project. And what happens to people that live in a project? Some of them never leave what? The neighborhood. They're all relegated to what? One block. You have some Bloods. I've seen documentaries. You have some Bloods and Crips that never left their block because they can't go past a certain block because of why? The stride phase, where they adapted to the environment and they what? They develop what? Remember the word? Territories. You can't leave a certain block to go to another territory. So some people never even left the city. That's how deep it goes. Go on now.
And this takes away from their ability to dream, to visualize, to set goals that they could achieve.
So it takes away, when you keep somebody bunched up or densely populated within a small area, you take away the ability in which they exhibit certain adverse social behaviors, and you keep them locked up in a cage. If you put a rat in a cage, if you put an animal, a dog on a leash, and you keep them in a place, an area so long. So if you could, sometimes you go, if somebody leaves their project or the area, what happens? Whoop, 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 whoop. The police come. Where you going, nigga? Go. You don't belong in this neighborhood. What do you think that's cool? Why do you think there's more police in black communities and not white? The police, there's a perimeter established. If you go to outside a certain perimeter, or you go to the white neighborhoods, that's why they have redlining, to keep niggas in line within a red line. If you go, it's a line, it's a border. You have a borders around certain communities and neighborhoods that they plotted so that you can't go past that, and they have the police on the borders. So every time you try to go out there, the police stop you. Where you going, nigga? You notice that there's more crime, more police stops in the black community to keep you from going out, to keep you within the project. Because as soon as you leave, you might experience something. You might learn something. You might see the world differently from other than your own eyes. So that's why we don't understand some people. You're like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, I grew up different. I grew up suburban. My mom knew to keep me away from certain areas and keep me involved so I could learn, so I could travel, so I could take hold of what life has to offer. So I don't miss the opportunities of life. And to expand my horizon, to expand my thinking, my intellects, to expose me to the world, to expose me to things so that, like I said, I won't be trapped in a box. Yeah, she did it to me when I was young. I never understood. But there's some people that were not given that opportunity, that all they live is in a box within their own mind, and they can't get out that. So sometimes, and I was a school teacher, and like I said, and I'll see kids, I'll look at them, I was like, damn, why does he act like this? Yo, why are you doing that? I said, brother, it's not you. And after a while, I said, shoot, this is him. I said, this guy, he ain't playing, this is real. But that's all they know. Because they're placed in a box. They never been traveling outside the state. Some of you brothers came to this truth. It was just by you coming to this truth, you travel out of state for the first time. Her brothers from Philly that never traveled outside of Philly. Never been to the white side. You've always been in North Philly or West Philly. You're a social experiment. You got to get out of Philly. Allow your lungs to breathe a little bit. The air is cleaner outside of Philly. Outside of North and West Philly. Shoot, the damn air is still and dry. I go out there to breathe. My lungs says, do not enter. The air just stop here. I'm like, damn, I'm suffocating. All I breathe in is still air. Sure, I go to the mountains, damn air infiltrates my body. It thinks, oh, wow. I feel like a new individual. My brain wakes up. You see my brain starts to, I was like, oh, wow. My brain gets oxygen. Sure, no wonder my brother somebody got that dumb look on him. You're not allowing oxygen to get to your brain. Get out a little, go to the mountains, take a hike. Allow oxygen to get to your brain. Live a little, fly a little bit. I'm sorry. I know I went on a rant. Always have to throw Philly in there. All right, now let's go to the next article. Brand new design.
Destruction by Design, the public housing of mice and men, part 1. In this series of Juxtapose, I remix West Coast Rap All-Star, We're All in the Same Game music video with the audio of John B. Calhoun's research on social media, on social crowding and aggression. The video, which I first shared during my hip-hop architecture lecture at Harvard's Graduate School of Design, details how the built environment influenced behavior.
You see, in his architecture lecture, this brother that did this article was an architect. It says, the video which I first shared during my hip hop architecture lecture at Harvard's Graduate School. So this brother was a smart brother, Ivy League school. Harvard, one of the top schools out there. He was able to what? He was able to correlate the parallels, or show the parallels between the John Calhoun's Rat Utopia and the public housing units.
Violence in the black community undoubtedly is the result of careful architectural planning and social conditioning.
you have an architect that was able to show the parallels between the two. It says violence in the black community undoubtedly is the result of careful architectural planning. So this brother was an architectural major. He said, listen, I could tell by the planning this has adverse effects on our mental health. Go on.
Not a consequence of cultural behaviors of black people. In this series titled Destruction by Design, a continuation of my hip-hop lyrics as Modernism Post-Occupancy Report, I will share historical data exposing the root causes of violence and propose a cross-disciplinary solution to this layered issue. In this series of Juxtapose, I remix West Coast rap all-stars. We are all in the same gang music video with the audio of John B. Calhoun's research on social crowding and aggression. The video, which I first shared during my hip-hop architecture lecture at Harvard's Graduate School of Design, exposes how the built environment influenced behavior.
Just like the sister said in the Cabrini Green documentary. Go on.
Calhoun studied the behavior of lab mice under conditions of overcrowding and controlled resources.
Overcrowded and controlled resources. Food, water, housing. What does that sound like? Controlled resources, food, water, housing. Go on.
People eventually made parallels between the activities of his study subjects to humans, some predicting that overcrowding was in the future for the human race. And based on research, violence was an inevitable part of that future if we don't change the way we design our cities. He coined the term behavioral sink.
Behavioral sink is called, read.
Which he used to describe the abnormal behaviors brought on by the extreme densities, which included violence.
So, based upon the architectural design of the public housing buildings, it brought on abnormal behaviors, meaning these behaviors are not normal. When you see behaviors of black people, when you see world star hip hop, when you see about 10 or 15 women all fighting together, you see it every day on YouTube. 10 or 15 women having an all-out brawl. Men walking through this, killing each other, shooting each other. This is not normal behavior. I'm going to show you through graphs, how the public housing definitely affected our behavior within the black community. Go on.
Violence, sexual deviation.
Wait. It says extreme densities within the public housing units, it enhances, which includes violence. It promotes violence, sexual deviation, promiscuity, homosexuality, lots of sex, abortion. Go on.
Gang culture.
And what promotes gang culture. That's what we learned in the first phase, the strive phase. When the mice started creating territories. Go on.
Along with decreased reproductive and nurturing ability.
That goes to abortion. All these play in a role of the conditions which are exhibited amongst black people within the black community, amongst black women as well as black men and children. All this behavior, abnormal behavior exhibited is based upon extreme densities, extreme architectural densities that was established to what? To influence our behavior. To what? To influence that aggressiveness. To enhance that aggressive nature. They say, you notice how certain cities, some people are more aggressive than other cities? Different experiments. Some experiments are more intense. So that's why certain cities, they're more aggressive. You think they were born that way? No. We are fierce people, naturally a fierce people, but we were fierce people righteously, not amongst each other, not like this. They were able to redirect that anger that we have for the other nation, and they was able to redirect it amongst us. They put us in a box where we can't redirect, so we can't go to them, because all we see is us. And we think when we look at each other, we see the enemy within us, because that's all we see. That's the only images they put in front of us. That's it on that. All right. Now let's go to You know, I forgot something. After Cabrini Green. Go back to, go to 21 verse 15 in the Cabrini Green documentary. So what happens when you take away, because the lady said something earlier, I forgot to mention, when you take away the ability to dream, to set goals, to be able to travel, to experience life as it is, you take away hope. When you take away hope, what else is there to live for? What you see amongst our people is their dreams, their aspirations, their goals taken away from them. Just like in the Malcolm X movie, when Malcolm said, I want to be a lawyer, he said, oh no, you can't be that. That's them taking away our dreams. That's them redirecting our goals, our life aspirations. And what happened to Malcolm after that? What did he become? A gangster. He became a gangster. They're able to reposition, redirect our way of thinking. Get real quick, Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 18. Where there's no vision, the people perish.
You see? If you take away a person's vision, if you take away their hope, their goals, their dreams, their aspiration, what happens? The people what?
The people perish.
And that's what happens in the die stage. You put us in a closely dense environment. You take away all those things. You take away a man's vision. You take away a man's purpose. We start to perish by our own hands. We start to exploit each other. We start to kill each other. We start to oppress one another. The people perish by our own hands. All right, now let's go to 21 verse 15.
Normally, it all be gone.
Residents in Robert Taylor homes and other housing projects feel helpless in the face of violence and crime and rape and assault. And that's a different kind of stress. It could be compared to being in a war zone. You live with constant fear.
Dr. Gail Christopher.
Wait, stop. She said it's a different, when you're exposed to everyday violence, crime, rape, aggressive, it builds a different type of stress, she states, as if you're what? In a war zone. You have something called PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Dr. Joy DeGruy coined it and called it post-traumatic slave syndrome, which was developed through slavery. Now, you got PTSD developed within these social experiments that breed certain behavior, just like post-traumatic slave syndrome, which was coined by Dr. Joy DeGruy. If you haven't watched their series or documentary or speaking engagements, I will suggest you to watch it. There's a lot of information coming out of that. And what she does is she shows the parallels and relations, the incidents, the things that we went through as a people in slavery, the things that we experienced. The mothers experienced the child being ripped from them. The fathers experienced the mothers being raped. The man's power being taken away from them. Their child being taken away from them. I was seeing all these things. Us being environment. It's this violent environment. It does something to a person psychologically. We were, like I said, black people, we have a natural love for one another as a people. We have that in us. That's why we don't go, that's why we're always seeking white love. That's why we won't do to them as they did to us, because we're not like them. There's a spirit of righteousness that was supposed to be implanted and embedded in us. We're not like the other nations. So we won't go as far. That's why the scripture said the Most High has to put his anger on us. You see them dash the baby into, stone. You might say, yeah. Dash the baby. You see a baby take your feet like, oh, but look at the blue eyes. Look at the blonde hair. Look at her. Baby crying, why like this? Some brothers might see the white woman, yeah. Oh, look at the white woman. No, that's why God has to put his anger in us. Because we don't operate the same way. We don't have the same type of mentality that they have. So she says that we're suffering from war experience. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and Dr. Joy DeGruy coined it as post-traumatic slave syndrome.
where a lot of the experiences that occurred in slavery and everything, the things that we adopted in slavery, a lot of social behaviors, just like the black woman not wanting a black man because of, and a black woman becoming independent and fending for herself was a result of Willie Lynch's letter. If you read it, he made the black woman independent and the black woman independent and the black man weak and effeminate, independent. So every time she raised the children, she raised the daughter to be independent, not to need a man, not to want a man, to be fend for herself. Because in slavery, she had the black man was taken from the household, and the black woman had to fend for herself. She was raped. Her man wasn't there because why? The white man had power over us. Or if he did try to defend his woman, he was killed. He was either raped. The children was taken away. So what? The black woman will weaken the black child, the male child. Make him effeminate, make him dependent, make him weak and docile, physically strong, but mentally weak. And a black woman, physically, mentally strong, or not strong, but that's weak, really weak, but independent. So these are adverse effects from slavery based upon the experiences that we witness as a whole, the traumatic experiences. So likewise, within these projects, it's the same thing. We're suffering from a war zone. We're literally suffering from a war zone. With people, you see these people in the army, they come back from PTSD. You see how a lot of them are bugged out. They wake up, finger on the trigger. They wake up shaking. They snap. They can't sleep. They have psychological problems. But what do they go to? Therapy. Because why? They can't cope with this society. But what happened with black people? We're at war. Chicago is a war zone. They call it what? Chirac. Because Chirac is equivalent to a war. There's more people that died in Chicago last year than they did in the whole Afghanistan war. In a whole war. Within 1 or 2 years. Ain't talking about we're not in a war zone. So what type of psychological help are they receiving? Nothing. Black people have not been sat down and have not been healed from the traumatic experiences from slavery as well as within their own community. All right, let's get the next now. Go on.
You live with constant fear.
Dr. Gail Christopher believes that most Taylor residents are like traumatized war veterans. Their symptoms include anxiety and depression, restlessness, irritability, alcoholism, insomnia, personality changes.
See that? All these things come from, all the things exhibited from war is exhibited within the black community. It says in personality, what? We go to the last part.
Residents in Robert Taylor homes and other housing projects feel helpless in the face of violence and crime and rape and assault. And that's a different kind of stress. It could be compared to being in a war zone. You live with constant fear.
Dr. Gail Christopher believes that most Taylor residents are like traumatized war veterans. Their symptoms include anxiety and depression, restlessness, irritability, alcoholism, insomnia, personality changes.
The dominant value is one of just being able to survive. Just being able to live from one day to the next or 1 week to the next.
That's the war. Think about it, just to live. Many of our kids don't even live past 20. They always say, y'all just trying to live past 20. If I live past 20, that's a life goal. That's a lifelong achievement for me. And you hear that. Because it's a war zone. Every day, looking over your head. You gotta have a gun on you. You gotta look over your shoulders. You gotta run home. That's only exhibited in war territory. You gotta look over your shoulder. You gotta have a gun on you. You gotta have a peace. That's why you see some people always looking out. Because they're always at war. They're never at peace. That's why the Most High got to lay us down. He says, I will give you rest. Because we're never at rest. We're always looking over our shoulders. We're always looking for the next man to kill us. And it's sad. Now go to Robert Taylor Homes. The article.
Robert Taylor Homes was a public housing project in Bronzeville on the south side of Chicago, Illinois, bordered along State Street between Pershing Road, 39th Street, and 54th Street alongside Dan Ryan Expressway. The project was named for...
The what?
The project...
The experiment was named what?
Was named for Robert Rochin Taylor.
So this experiment was named Robert Taylor. Go on.
An African-American activist and the first African-American chairman of the Chicago Housing Authority, CHA. It was a part of the State Street corridor, which included other CHA
go up.
history. Robert Taylor homes were completed in 1962.
And where?
In 1962.
Okay, another one, 1962. John Calhoun project was completed in the 1960s. Robert Taylor, 1962. Cabrini Green, 1960s. All right, go down to problems.
Problems. Robert Taylor homes faced many of the same problems that doomed other high-rise.
Wait, Robert Taylor projects face many of the same problems that doom other high-rise housing projects. Where?
In Chicago, such as Cabrini Green.
Because why? It's part of the same social experiment. The same social behaviors exhibited amongst the rats in the rat. John Calhoun's rat utopia is the same social behaviors experience in Cabrini Green, as well as the Robert Taylor homes, as well as all the projects in Chicago and throughout the United States. You're going to get the same results. Go on.
These problems include narcotics.
Wait, these problems, drug addiction. Why? Because of depression. You're deprived of any visual. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, alcoholism, narcotics. Read. Violence, because of after the strive stage, you have, I forgot what's the other stage. You have the strive stage, then you have the stage, I believe it was called the, let me see, what stage was it? Where violence increased. Was it the equilibrium stage? The equilibrium stage is where violence increased. Go on.
And the perpetuation of poverty. Planned for 11,000 inhabitants, the Robert Taylor homes housed up to a peak of 27,000 people.
Jeez. You have 27,000 people in one project? That is sick. And you don't think they're not gonna exhibit certain behaviors? They know exactly what they're doing. The scripture says not to lay house upon house, nor field to field. And the lady says that there's certain adverse effects that occurs when we put people in such a dense population. And it shows that within a rat utopia. And you wonder why there's violence, there's narcotics, there's depression, there's poverty, there's rape, there's aggression, there's murder. Is that it?
6 of the poorest U.S. census areas with populations above 2,500 were found there, including children.
Wait, the poorest. Wait a minute. It says 6 of the poor. When you're poor, we don't have anything. We don't have a job. Who takes care of you? Who takes care of you? The government. Oh, John Calhoun, what did he do with the rats? He what? He nurtured it. He housed it. And he fed it. He gave it water. He gave it everything you need. You have to give them everything you need in order to successfully complete your project. That's why in the the Cabrini Green projects, as well as the Robert Taylor projects, they gave them everything. And I'm not sure you see my last class, but my last class we went into the documentary. I advise everybody to watch the documentary on your own. A lot of the people within the project were saying that, we have to resort to selling drugs and gangbanging and stealing because all the application that we send out, they deny it. Because why? When you send out application, what do you got to put on the application? Your place of residence. And once you put your place of residence, what happens? Oh, no, don't hire people from this. They're part of the social experiment. So what do they have to resort to? The black man can't get a job. He can't provide for his own. So he has to go public assistance. Wait a minute. Oh, if you're a black family, you can't provide for your own. You can't survive. If you're a public assistance, there's certain public assistance where the black man can't be in a household. So he can't be in a household. He has to go elsewhere. Now the black woman's by herself, raising a child by herself in a denser populated environment with its violence, with its crime, with its aggression, with its depression. So it's her and a child. She can't take the environment. She can't deal with it. So what does she do? She kills her child. Abortion. Oh, let's go deeper into the blueprint. All right. Go to now. Let's see, where am I? All right. Go to SNAP. 1961 through 1964. Pilot food stamp program. What is a pilot? Look it up. Look at what is a pilot? Done as in what?
Done as an experiment or test before introducing something more widely.
Done as an experiment or test before what?
Before introducing something more widely.
Let's go back now to the thing, to the article. It was a pilot is an experiment or test. What year now?
1961.
No, what year was the reading grade? 1960. Robert Taylor Holmes, 1962. Go ahead.
Through 1964.
Through 1964. Read.
Pilot food stamp.
A test or experiment food stamp program. Okay, go to the Eisenhower.
The Eisenhower administration never used the authority. However, in fulfillment of a campaign promise made in West Virginia, President Kennedy's first executive order called for expanded food distribution, and on February 2nd...
You thought Kennedy was for black people, huh? Just like Bill Clinton. Go on.
On February 2nd, 1961, he introduced the initiation of food stamp pilot programs. The pilot programs would retain the requirement that the food stamps be purchased, but eliminated the concept of special stamps for surplus foods. A department spokesman indicated...
That's all I wanted. Now let's go to Revelation 12, verse 14. So notice how during the projects or the creation or the inhabitant of the projects, you have to nourish your test subjects. You keep them from attaining a job. You keep them within poverty. You keep them, because if they're in poverty, they only have one place to live. And you have the Public Housing Act that provided housing. You have Section 8. So you provide a house for them. You provide food for them during the same time period. Read that.
Revelations chapter 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle.
The woman is making reference to Israel. Go on.
That she might fly into the wilderness.
And we flew into the wilderness, into the west coast of Africa. Go on.
Into her place.
Into her place, which is America. Read.
Where she is nourished for a time, and times, and a half a time.
And where she was nourished. How was the woman nourished? How were the Israelites nourished? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Verse 48.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, and hunger.
So we will have to serve our enemies, which God sent against us, and hunger. You got to go to your enemies for food. That's why the food stamp program was created. Just like in a John Calhoun's rat experiment, the rats have to rely on the experimenter for food. Just like we, blacks, within like I said, poor urban communities or within these projects, had to rely on the government for SNAP, food stamps. Go on.
And thirst.
And thirst for water. Read.
And in nakedness.
And for clothing, the Salvation Army, for every type of food, clothing, water. Go on.
And in the want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And that's when slavery, when they put the chains upon our necks, the yoke of iron. Now, let's go now to Spike Lee's discussion on Chirac. Brand new design. So the food stamp program was 1961, 1964. You had the projects 1960 to 1962 and onward. And remember the graph. I want you guys to keep in mind the visual of the graph of the John Calhoun's experiment. I'm going to show you something. Chirac, war zone. Go down.
from born and raised. And I'm flabbergasted at this movie. Brother,
you mean that in a good way or bad way?
In a bad way.
Why is that?
Brother, as a fan of your work, your entire body of work, I'm observing how, frankly, angry and confused I am at what I just saw, my brother.
Why is that?
You're creating a film here that places the entirety of the blame for the situation and the plight that's going on in Chicago on the black people that are in Chicago.
That's not true.
You showed us 17 minutes and a music video. Yes, sir. Well, let me ask my question.
What's your question?
What is the goal? What is your motive?
I said the goal before. The goal is to save lives, sir.
How many lives you gonna save without providing jobs for them people in Chicago? How many jobs you
First of all,
you're not telling nobody the truth about what's going on in Chicago and around this country.
That's not
Look,
sure.
there's an experiment done. Listen to me. There's an experiment done that shows when you put mice on top of each other, they're gonna kill, steal, and destroy each other.
Tell them.
Right? And so if you put a bunch of people in projects all over this country, what you think they're gonna do?
Yo, let them talk, man.
My man. They've always been black ghettos. They've always been black ghettos. We are not killing each other regularly before. Sir, thank you for your opinion. You haven't even seen it.
See? So he addressed one of the issues within the black community, primarily within Chicago. He says there was an experiment. You're not telling the whole truth. There was an experiment done on rats. And when you put them on top of each other within a dense environment, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to steal, kill, and what was the thing? Last one? And devour or destroy, something like that. So what he said, what do you think is going to happen within all these projects throughout all the United States? They're going to still kill and destroy. So showing you the parallels that people are starting to wake up and show the parallels between the two. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't know these articles exist or any of this existed prior to me finding the John Calhoun's Rat Utopias, but based upon what I see in the communities, I always had a question, why is it called project? I know it's called project because it's a social experiment, but I was never be able to put the one and one together. So now I put it together. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, shoot. That's crazy. I go through the script. I said, that's sick. Then now, not long afterwards, a week or 2 weeks afterwards, I'll find these articles to show that there's other people that also put the parallel together. So my assumption wasn't incorrect. So there is like I said, there is a conspiracy or a plot that America designed scientifically through the John Calhoun's Rat Utopia to enhance certain behavior problems within us, certain behavior attributes that they place within us based upon the design, architectural design of these buildings. Now I'm going to show you something. Give me the Chicago murder rate graph. I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing. I want to tell you what graph does it look like. And when were these things enhanced? Let's start from 1870. Increase it. Okay, crime started to increase, whatever. 1882, okay, a little spike. Go on, come on. Follow the wave. 1886, 1890, yeah, it's starting to increase little by little. Okay, all right, get a little faster, brother. You're being ridiculous now. All right, don't go over curve. Just go, man. Go to 1960. 1946, 1950, 1958, wait, stop there, 1962. Boom, 1962, wait. The project, 1962. The Cabrini Green projects, the Robert Taylor projects, the food stamp. Go to 1966. Uh-oh. What are we looking at? We're looking at strive, we're looking at equilibrium. And then you're looking at the high stage. When did it start to increase? The mid-1960s. They knew exactly what they were doing. That's called the equilibrium stage. 1966 was 1960s. The beginning stage was called the strive stage. Then you had the second stage. What was the second stage called again? Yeah, the exploit stage. So you have the strive stage, you have the exploit stage, What you witnessed in 1966 is called the equilibrium stage, when violence starts to increase. And notice how it just dramatically just shoots up. 1966. You don't think they knew they were doing by these public high-rise buildings? They knew exactly what they were doing. You guys think it's a game. All right, now. And I'll show you another thing. It's no difference. We noticed in Philadelphia. Look at the houses. They're on top of each other. They're not on top of, they're connected. These are houses. What do you call them? Row homes? What?
Like rowing the boat.
Row homes? Oh, that's what they call it? Oh, shoot. They call it row homes. They're all on a row. Oh, row homes. But we go to North Philadelphia West, I see it all over the place. I'm like, damn, that's a terrible design. I get depressed when I first came out. I said, this is depressive. Just looking at it. The streets are condensed. I'm like, you gotta drive through. Excuse me, baby. You know, Negroes in this road just sitting there, they can't park. Row homes all over the place. Can't have sex with your wife without the neighbor hearing it. You ain't cut that down, nigga. No. So you have, it's my turn. You go out. This is my day. Nigga, I'm trying to sleep. So you have also, now, it's funny, when I went to South Philadelphia and Central Philly, they have individual and separate houses. So when you go to white neighborhoods, the houses are not like the row homes at all. I did not see that when I went to that. They have beautiful, to be honest, the first time I went to South Philadelphia, I think it's South, right? It's a nice side? Yeah, I went to South Philadelphia, I'm not gonna lie. No, the first time I went to the Southwest Central, I went to the Kendrick Lamar concert. Yo, I saw trees. The wind was even blowing differently. Yo, the air hit my lungs. I said, whoa, this is what it means to breathe. This is breathing. And not only that, I saw the houses were gorgeous, beautiful. I said, this is Philly? There was another time we did an event on Sabbath. I was driving through. I didn't know where I was. I just following GPS. Wife, where are we? I said, I don't know. Look like a tropical rainforest. She's like, where are we? I look on the map. I said, oh shoot, we're in Philly? I said, this not real. I said, this can't be Philly. So even by, like I said, it's all by design. It's even within, if it's the projects not on top of each other, they're right on beside each other, the row homes. All right, what I want. So if you look at the murder graph, 1960s, everything started to skyrocket because of the equilibrium stage was being implemented. That was the stage where the territories were already established. Everybody got the territories, locations. Now that's when the stage where the violence started to increase tremendously. All right, now Isaiah chapter 51 verse 20. Hey brother, it's late, so you guys need to go home. I know you got work in the morning. Be our guest. I know you guys are tired, except for the cameraman. You got no choice. You better take a Red Bull tomorrow. Isaiah 51 verse 20.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 51, verse 20. Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets.
So thy sons have fainted. The sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so-called black, Hispanics, and Native American Indian. They lost consciousness of who they are. They lost consciousness of their identity, their purpose on this earth, the community values, the biblical values. And they have what? They have fainted. They lost consciousness of who they are, their purpose, and the vision of God on this earth. Read.
They lie at the head of all the streets.
And now they lie at the head of all the streets. That's what you see. You have the strive period. The strive phase was the establishment of territories. That's them lying at the head of all the streets, establishing territories and again affiliation, selling drugs. That's why it said in the Robert Taylor homes, what it says, there was gangs. Some of the problems within that community was gang violence. Narcotics was another issue within the community. Once you take away hope, you take away job, the ability for a man to provide for his home. Like Biggie says, others down there trying to feed my kids. That's what they say. What would they say? It's all good, baby. I'm trying to feed my kids. That's what they say. So they lie. What? Read that again.
They lie at the head of all the streets.
Where do you go? Wherever in America, you go to Detroit, Chicago, New York, Newark, Philadelphia, Miami. Wherever you go, every neighborhood, every hood, is always that one convenience store. And notice how, and you have the first stage, which is the strive stage. And with the second stage was what again? Damn, I keep on forgetting the second stage. The exploit stage. The exploit stage, they says that's where everybody found a central location to eat. They said all the rats established a central location where they socially gathered and ate at. That's why you had Negroes at these convenience stores. That's exactly, huh? Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing exactly what the rats are doing. That's why they all every time you go where black people, there's always that one location, central location. They're doing that. So that's the stage. That's the stage we call what's it? That's the exploit stage. When you see Negroes at the supermarkets or the CVS, you see that Philly CVS. You see that at the chicken spot. That they're exhibiting behavior from the exploit stage. So, and at the head of all the streets, what do you think they're doing? They're playing about world domination. They're playing about real estate. They're doing mathematics. Think about what investments, what stock to invest in, what mutual funds, 401ks to invest in, what real estate what land to acquire. No, we know what they're doing. They're selling drugs. They're affiliated. Or they're involved in narcotics. Go on.
As a wild bull in a net.
As a wild bull in a net. Meaning a wild bull's uncontrollable. They're full of aggression. They're full of anger. The depression. A lack of hope. So they act as a wild bull trapped. Trapped in the trap. Trapped in the projects. Trapped in education. Trapped in politics. Trapped in religion. Trapped in poverty. Trapped in the system. Trapped in an experiment. Trapped in a John Calhoun's rat utopia experiment. They're the wild bulls trapped in a net. You go to the left, it's a trap. There's borders there. To the right, there's a border there. Is that it?
They are full of the fury of the Lord.
And the Most High allowed it. The Most High placed his fury, his angry upon us. He allowed these other nations to exploit us, to destroy us, to oppress us. God allowed that. Because of our disobedience, because of us breaking his commandments. All right? Go to Jeremiah 5, verse 26 now.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 5, verse 26. For among my people are found wicked men.
Mm-hmm.
They lay wait, as he that said.
Come on, read it correctly. Read it again. Come on.
For among my people are found wicked men.
For among God's people are found wicked men. Now, we can talk about the social experiments, all the evil they did amongst us. To us, yes, we are a product of our environment. But let me tell you how Satan works. Satan doesn't force you or control you to do certain things. You do it. Satan sets the stage. That's all he does. The wickedness, whatever you do, the things that you involve yourself was already in you. Because remember, within the rat experiment, you had certain rats called the beautiful ones. They didn't involve themselves within the environments or the gang affiliation or amongst those cliques. They stayed to themselves. They stayed quiet, even though they said it was dumb, it's messed up. They stayed to themselves. They stayed quiet. They didn't get involved in that stuff. They stayed, they ate, and they stayed in the corner. So they didn't get involved. You saw those certain mice, and they call them beautiful ones. They call them unique. There's certain mice that didn't get involved with the multitude. They didn't go run with the masses. But you have the vast majority got involved because why? What's in you is going to come out of you. That evil was already there. That hatred, that murder spirit was already there. Because not everybody that lives in the projects come out that way. There's some people that don't come out that way. That are not violent. They're not in big gang banging. You have honest people, a lot of honest people and good people within the projects. Because what? Certain spirits didn't have it. They don't battle with certain spirits the way other people do. But the vast majority of those people, a lot of them, do exhibit those behaviors and spirits. So what happens? See, Esau, Satan, the white man, sets the stage, sets the experiment, and what happens? The evil that's already within you comes out of you, and you follow right into the trap. You follow right into the behavioral sake. You exhibit this exact behavior that they expected you to exhibit because of the evil that's within you. They didn't tell you to pick up the gun. You picked up the gun. They didn't tell you to direct your aggression towards your own brother. Look at Fred Hampton. Look at Huey P. Newton. Look at many of our brothers and sisters that were in the same environment. But they didn't do the things you did. No, we're not going to make excuses for your behavior. You picked up the gun. You sold the drugs. You killed your brother. You raped your sister. You did that. The white man didn't do that. Yes, he set the stage, but he didn't let you do that. That's the difference. Never use that as an excuse. So even when our brothers made that statement to Spike Lee, he was right, but at the same time, at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own conditions.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.